Elyrion is a language from the Battle of Polytopia, a turn-based strategy video game. It's an art language created by Polytopia's community manager Zoithris, spoken by the Elyrion tribe, one of the tribes you can choose to play as in the game. And you can also choose to have the game help text in Elyrion, and not be able to read anything. Actually, that was how the language was developed, a joke about an intentionally unreadable localization. And yeah, I got to interview the creator Zoithris, which was pretty awesome. So my friends who play Polytopia all insisted that Elyrion was a real Conlang. But we'll see whether that's true. Today I'll be reviewing Elyrion from a Conlang point of view. Is it a real Conlang or not? So this video will have two parts. First, we're going to go over Elyrion's sound system, writing system, vocabulary, and grammar, and analyze why, despite the protests of my friend and countless other Polytopia players, it's not actually a real Conlang. But then we'll think more creatively, and try to construct some sort of world-building scenario that could save Elyrion, and maybe lend it some plausibility. So Elyrion is intentionally unpronounceable by humans, and that makes sense. Elyrion speakers are elves who practice nature magic and can summon dragons. They have long hair and long pointed ears, and it's totally possible that the anatomy of their mouths could be entirely different than that of humans. But we have to represent their language somehow, and so Reddit user Hello I Am Bush thankfully came up with a one-to-one romanization system for representing Elyrion in the Roman alphabet, typable without all these special characters that usually make up written Elyrion, which as you can tell is purposefully horrific. Props to Zoithris for actually getting this system into a massively popular video game. It's pretty hilarious, even if it is terrible in the eyes. The romanization system, in addition to making Elyrion more easily typable and readable, illuminates some of the English roots of the supposed Conlang. You can see here that a large portion of Elyrion words are transparently spelled similarly to their English counterparts, or even the same. Dimonai is dominate, Notipia is multiplayer, and forever is eternal. U is literally the letter U. Also, there are some very Englishy things that Elyrion does with its vocabulary. For example, nay is new and nays is news. The fact that in English adding the plural marker to the adjective new gets you the word for news is very unique, and very unlikely to just be randomly replicated in an alien language. Also, the plural marker is the letter C, and this seems cool until you realize that in the actual Elyrion script, C represents the number sign. So the plural suffix looks like a number sign, which is kind of cool. It's a nice hidden Easter egg. But it's bad for considering Elyrion its own language. To be completely fair, Elyrion does have a few derivational suffixes, but most of them are only used once or twice. According to Zoithris, Elyrion has suffixes based on the emotion of the speaker, but the only speaker ever translated is the game help text, and there's only a few suffixes that we see more than once, and they're not used for emotions. The most common derivational affix is F, which usually functions like ER in English, marking the doer of an action. So, in its vocabulary and derivation, Elyrion is basically just a Relex of English. A Relex means that, for the most part, every English word or affix corresponds to one and only one word or affix in Elyrion, and vice versa. A Relex isn't considered a separate language or Conlang, it's just considered a code or cipher. But let's look at Elyrion grammar to confirm this Relex status. Unfortunately, the grammar of Elyrion is also exactly the same as that of English. Let's take a look at a sample sentence from the game help text. This is the text in Elyrion, this is the text in English, and this is the gloss. As you can see, the same gloss works for both languages. They have the exact same grammar and syntax, minus Elyrion not having a word for the. Actually, when I was highlighting each color here, it was really easy because I could just copy and paste the Elyrion text and replace each word with its single English equivalent. Therefore, Elyrion is a Relex of English, and not a Conlang, but a code. To be clear though, Elyrion is not gibberish. It's English, just coded, and functions as a really nice Easter egg. If anyone wanted to dive deeper and actually analyze Elyrion, like Reddit user Disc Jockey Derek, who compiled this Google Doc, which functions as the only openly available documentation of the language, they'd be able to cipher Elyrion. And deciphering stuff is fun. But, for a Conlanger such as myself, it's slightly annoying to find out that a supposed Conlang from a game you love is actually just English Relexified. And so this is the part of the video when we try to be more creative. How can we come up with some scenario that excuses the Relex, world building wise? Well, one way to think about it is this. We'll start with a horrific script, 28 special characters. So all these special characters look terrible together. and there's absolutely no way that Elyrions would actually write using Latin alphabet special characters. That doesn't really make sense within the world building of the game. But what if these special characters are actually just close enough representations of the actual Elyrion script, which could look something like this, for example. So now the Elyrion have an actual script of their own. The game just represents it with special characters because those are what look most similar to Elyrion glyphs and are typable. That gives the script some plausibility. Now let's move to the vocabulary. So there are a few ways we can give this plausibility. We have to explain 4 things. Why are some Elyrion words basically the same as their English counterparts? And the answer to this is pretty easy: loanwords. We can imagine that at least one of the other tribes in the game speaks English, and through long contact with Elyrion, loaned them words such as dominate and throne. This is very plausible. Next, why does every word have a one-to-one translation? And that's just because we're not translating them well. We don't know enough about Elyrion to know each word's full meaning or connotation. We only know translations from the help text, and we don't have access to a native speaker. This is also plausible. Next, why are new, the adjective, and news, the noun, connected in exactly the same way as their English counterparts? Well, this one's a little harder to answer, but this is actually something that happens with language contact. Actually, a very similar thing happened in the language I speak, Hebrew. The word for news, chadashot, is one of the plural forms of the adjective nu, chadash, probably due to contact with English. And the last question is, why is the number sign used for plurality? Here we can say that Elyrion actually has a special marker in their script that is only used for the plural suffix, and that translators of the game help text decided to represent that with the number sign, even if it didn't look actually like the number sign in the Elyrion script, just because it would make sense to English speakers. So that somewhat solves the problems of vocabulary. Now let's move to grammar, which is harder. The grammar is unfortunately exactly the same as English. I'm not actually sure how we can justify this and say that it's plausibly not English, other than just saying the grammar is extremely similar to English but not exactly the same, and that we haven't really seen the differences yet because we only have the game help text to go by. We don't have enough documentation. For example, those modal suffixes Zoithris described haven't popped up in our translations yet because the only speaker has been a personalist narrator that we have translated. So, Elyrion is not a conlang, but we can still find some ways to justify it and make its existence plausible within the world of Polytopia. It makes me slightly annoyed as a conlanger that the game didn't decide to hire a conlanger to do this job and pay them, because as someone on the only conlanging jobs board in the world, there is definitely a surplus of conlangers who would die to have an official job, especially for a video game as prominent as Battle of Polytopia, and most will accept pretty low prices for commissions. But on the other hand, Elyrion does make me laugh. It's a hilarious Easter egg, even if it is, as described by the creator, like the worst conlang out there. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe with notifications for more videos like this in the future. And for all the Polytopia players out there watching this video, go mine some whales.